It is a five-alarm political fire for Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican Party as poll after poll after poll shows Trump reaching new lows seemingly by the day and bringing his party down with him. It appears to be driven by the dumpster fire of an economy in the telling of voters. The pollster Nate Silver has found that Trump's aggregated polling is near rock bottom, just 38% approving of his job performance on average, and a record 58% of all Americans on average disapproving of Donald J. Trump. That is the lowest that anyone has reached at this point in their term since the year 1946. Not surprisingly, those new lows are driven by voters' anger and frustration with Donald Trump's economic record. Trump is underwater 28 points on his handling of the economy, once a strong suit for him, just 33% approve. An eye-popping 43% underwater on his handling of inflation, which is 26% approving. In the face of these historic lows, Trump hit the road to try to, we surmise, improve his standing with voters somehow on this issue of the economy. Here's how Trump tried to do that last night in Vegas, trying to make the case for his historically unpopular economic performance. Watch.
And when oil goes down, we may have to send it up again. I used to say that tariffs are my favorite word. I love tariffs. They're my favorite word in the dictionary, tariff. I love tariffs, right? I call them Democrats because their policies are so dumb. You exchange the E with a U, and nobody knows that dumb doesn't have a B. We inherited a terrible mess. I inherited a mess from Obama. I saw polls today on television that say Donald Trump polls on the economy aren't good. The economy is the greatest economy we've ever had by far. The economy aren't good. They're fake polls, just like fake writers.
The economy is the best economy we've had by far. To prove it to you, I'm going to switch the E to a U in the word Democrats. Okay. Bring it on, I guess, is the response. Spoken like a president who might be about to lose his TV time. He wasn't done there, though. This was a remarkable speech. Take a look at the whole thing if you have an extra, hour and a half to kill. He went on to tell the crowd gathered there to see him and listen to his word games, letter swaps in Las Vegas, Nevada, that if they do nothing else, they must vote for Michael Whatley for governor. He was really specific about that. Now, two problems. Whatley is not running for governor. Whatley is running for Senate. Whatley is not running for Senate in Nevada. He is running for Senate, not governor, in the state of North Carolina, which happens to be 2,000 miles away from where Donald Trump was last night. And yes, everyone misspeaks, including me, but Donald Trump told the crowd in Las Vegas, Nevada, to vote for Whatley for governor twice. 2 times. Donald Trump telling voters to trust him and not their own eyes or ears or wallets, even as his base turns away from him, is where we begin today with Democratic strategist Liz Smith. She's an advisor for majority Democrats. And the bench, also back with us, my friend and colleague, senior political analyst, host of the Runaway Country podcast, author of the Substack, How the Hell, Alex Wagner is back. Wags, I've missed you. I'm glad you're back with us. I know you've been podcasting and busy doing all your own things, but so much has happened. And I try not to watch a lot of Trump content live. I sort of need to know what I'm getting into. It's actually how I read thrillers as well. I need to know how they end these days. But this was amazing. And I sort of think maybe we should all go offline someday and watch one of these speeches together and just stop every time he says something wrong, crazy, deranged, or politically damaging, because he did all of that over and over again last night.
I'd rather go get a joint colonoscopy with you than watch Trump speeches in my free time with you. But having said that, I also try and avoid them. But the one last night was a real humdinger. First of all, when you are the president and you are on the campaign trail and you are stumping for someone else, the one thing you're supposed to do is get the name of the candidate right. And the fact that he's stumping for someone 2,000 miles away tells you all you need to know about Trump's mental state and his intellectual acuity. The other piece of it that I think is really really interesting is Las Vegas tourism is down by, I think, almost double digits because foreign tourists, including Canadians, Mexicans, and Europeans, are not going to the Strip. Why aren't they going? Could it be that Donald Trump has decimated our relationship with European allies and Canadians, has taken retributive economic measures, and all those tourists are like, why would I go to the United States? Why would I go to Las Vegas? I mean, the idea that somehow Lombardo, who's the, Republican gubernatorial candidate in this race, is pointing to Trump's stewardship of the economy as something to wrap his arms around, very questionable political strategy in a state like Nevada, to say nothing of the fact that once Trump gets up there, he can't even remember who he's stumping for. So yeah, like all of these data points, like events like last night, go a long way in showing why, as Nate Silver points out in his column today on Substack, he's underwater on issues where he used to be healthfully in net positive. I think he's dropped I think I wrote down the number here. On the economy, he went from a positive 7.3 approval rating to a net negative 28.8 rating. I mean, that is just hemorrhaging support on the issue that keeps you in office. So good luck to all the Republicans whose names Trump can't remember who he's going on the campaign trail for.
This person who actually is the Republican governor spoke. So I don't know why Whatley was in his brain, but I really am curious, Liz, if you think he didn't know. Let me show you the guy. This is the Republican governor of Nevada.
Quite often when the press and the media runs him down, they think about, he's taking care of his billionaire friends. But those billionaire friends provide jobs. And unless you take care of them, those jobs are absent.
So, first of all, MAGA has gone from Make America Great Again to warm fuzzies for all the billionaires, quote, take care of them. That's the new message. But do you think he didn't know who that was, or do you think he didn't know where he was? Like, why do you think 2 times he calls out the Senate candidate in North Carolina?
Well, I think Whatley had a pretty bad day yesterday. It turned out that he had called for getting rid of FEMA, so maybe that's why he was on the brain. But can we just go back to what Lombardo said? That's the sort of comment that you usually get from like a fundraiser that leaks. Instead, he just went out and said that just in front of all the media, in front of a big crowd, and sort of giving away what the Republicans' priorities are. But I want to go back to one thing that Alex said that was really smart, was talking about how the tourism industry in Nevada has been hit hard by Trump's policies. And that's how I think Democrats are going to be able to win this argument, not just by saying, OK, Trump is bad, but talking about the local impacts and things that they would do differently. You mentioned I'm an advisor to groups like The Bench and Majority Democrats. And at The Bench, what we do is we find oftentimes first-time candidates, people who have a lot of experience in their communities, who can speak uniquely to the things going on, not in like legislative speak that we all know Democrats often fall into. And when Bobby Polito in South Texas goes out and talks about the affordability crisis, he talks about how ICE raids are raising prices. He goes with the South Texas builders and says these ICE raids are creating labor shortages that are raising home prices, average home price per house, by $10,000 to $20,000. We have people like Jamie Yeager, a farmer and a small businessman, who talks about USDA cuts, how they cut, a big contract he had to give homegrown beef to local schools, and how the Trump administration's policies are waging war on family farmers. And I think having that sort of perspective where we can criticize Trump, but also talk about the local effects of this and how it's hitting people at home is really, really important.